Okay, we're up, ladies. Well, welcome to the JeepHer Show, and I'm Tara.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Kate.
And
welcome to the JeepHer Show.
Hey, girls.
What's up?
Welcome. Tonight our guest is Kate.
Yes. Kate, we are so excited you agreed to come on. Like, when we thought of this episode, we were like, oh my gosh, Kate would be like perfect.
Yeah, I was so excited about the topic.
Yeah. Well,
you were like,
go to. How many times have you built a Jeep?
What?
How many times have you built a Jeep, like planned to build?
Well, so like from start to finish, planning a build, only one. But now there's two more. And so there is the beginning processes of planning those builds. So I guess you could say like there's currently 3 ongoing, but in terms of like this one, I mean, not that one, this one's not even finished. So
is it ever finished?
I would like it to be.
That's what's great about Kate when she builds something. Go ahead, Tara.
No, I was just want to let you know we have some people saying hello. Ari said hello. Kim Witkoff said, hey, ladies. And Paul Chester said hello from GP. Hey, so, hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
So when Kate was talking about how she's only planned the one, I've been following Kate since I leased Rogue. And I literally fell in love with it wasn't even like you're famous for your mirror shot. But it wasn't even the mirror shot that got me in. It was the detail to all your planning and the stages, because that's what I needed to know. And that's why we love so much having you on here, because there's so many people that have brand new builds and they're going for stuff that they may not have budgeted, but looks cool and flashy. And Kate sat down and thoroughly thought out every single inch. And like she said, she's still not done because she's still thinking about every single inch of that Jeep.
Yeah.
So your advice is invaluable when it comes to like thinking about what to do for a Jeep and how to build the Jeep, and taking the process slow and controlled like you did was meticulous. And you have this monster behind you. If you guys don't know, Kate is Psychocupcake4x4. Go check out her build, check out her progress. She gives you so much information in her videos and stuff too. So she's very good to follow. Yeah, amazing content.
Great content. So Kate, before we like dive in, give us a little background on you. Like, how did you get into wheeling? Like, I've only known you for less than a year, I feel like.
Yeah.
So
it's a little bit of a funny story. So like I've owned Jeeps since I was 17. But I only had Grand Cherokees. And like I always wanted a Wrangler. So it was just one of those things, like it just didn't really happen until later on in life. But I consider myself always having been a Jeep person. But in 2012, I decided to get not this thing. I've got to figure out my right to my left here. This thing.
I know it's opposite.
And it's I really didn't. I had never truly been off-roading. There were a couple times that I had been with friends where we drove on dirt roads or like did things or we went mudding or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
I had never been off-roading. So I bought this thing not really knowing what I wanted it to become or what I wanted to do. And so like I really went through that entire evolution of learning. But yeah, so the first time I went off-roading was in 2013. And then everything's just kind of like snowballed from there. So that's a little bit of my Jeep story evolution.
That's kind of
like how you said it, snowballed.
Yeah, it did.
So what brought you from that intro of mudding and just off-roading on paths to rock crawling? Because you've built a monster capable of amazing articulation over comp courses and trails. What got you into rock crawling? What enticed you?
Well, I mean, I think that was really my first true experience. So when I got this in 2012, this is all going to sound like really ridiculous. We'll just dive into the story.
Never.
So I got it knowing that I wanted to modify it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had a very wonderful person that coached me through a lot of this stuff. But in starting to talk about the options, do you want a 2.5-inch lift in 35s, or do you want a 3.5-inch lift in 37s, or do you want this in 40s, whatever. And I started to hear all of those things that you needed from, all of the changes you needed to have each of those things. I was completely overwhelmed, like legitimately to the point of tears. Because I thought, I don't even understand what these things are. I didn't know the difference between an axle shaft and a drive shaft. So it was,
a lot.
so all of that being said, I knew that I wanted to do something to it. So we started really small, 2.5-inch lift in 35s. And then we went to Roush, and that was in, like I said, 2013. And we just immediately hit the rocks. I mean, there was no like, oh, let's go find mud puddles or anything. I mean, it was just like instantly like going and attempting some of the little smaller rock gardens and stuff. And I was like, yeah, like this is it. This is what I want to do. And then I think
it called to you.
Yeah, it did. And I think it's a joke around here, because I think that anybody that knew that I was buying a Wrangler and that I was going to do it and like modify it, and I think everybody expected that the extent of my off-roading was going to be like maybe driving it on the beach occasionally. So I don't think anybody like expected that this was going to happen. But yeah, it was literally just like that very first time being at Roush, and it was like, this is the thing. This is what I want to do.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Long answer to your question, but
Kate, that is like for me, like super inspiring. You know what I mean? Because like I see you, and it's like you would think that you were like raised on this, studying this, and to hear like that where you started not
Absolutely
really that long ago, 2013 was really. I mean, I'm telling my age a little bit, but to my kids that was a long time ago. But it's goals, like, because like you said, it's a lot to learn.
Yeah,
and it can get very frustrating.
Yeah, and so, to the point of this topic tonight about how to build your Jeep, like one of the things that was, I guess, a blessing in doing it the way that I did and going through all of those processes is that I learned so much along the way. So like, doing a simple lift kit and putting on 35s, like that was, to me, that was pretty advanced at that time. And then a year later, I decided to go to 37s, and we did the regear ourselves. So then to learn how to regear your own axles,
that's a lot.
It just, every single thing provided an opportunity to learn more about the Jeep and everything else. So, and then there became wrong side, this build. And then you literally, you go through each like subsystem of things, whether you're learning about the fuel cell, or you're learning about the air intake, or you're learning about seat mounting or suspension design. And like, you have to teach yourself and become an expert on that one thing, like for however long it takes you to do that thing. And so you'll absorb all of this knowledge. You'll learn, all right, this is how you design suspension. And then you do that task, and then you're like, okay, well, that one's done. Now I've got to go learn how to design a fuel system. And so when people want to know, why did your build take 2.5 years? That's why, because I had to learn each and every aspect of how to do things. So, and like I said, I started from not knowing anything.
Yeah. And this industry makes it really easy to like cut and paste your mods.
Yeah.
And that's great, but it's going to be cut and paste.
Right.
And if you have specific goals and things you want to do, this is what you need to do. You need to do your research. You need to become that semi-expert, or like you're building this so you can destroy things. So you want to be able to get over that and know every little single bit. But like you said, you went from not knowing the difference between a drive shaft and an axle shaft. And a lot of our viewers, same thing. And they look at a Jeep and they're just like, oh, okay, that's just a lot. And it can be super overwhelming. Yeah. So the advice of starting at like one spot or anything, is there anything you would recommend to people who are not currently built up or regeared? By the way, regearing is the one thing that I was so overwhelmed with that we went with an outside person. So when you said you guys were geared it yourselves, I was just like, boom, insane. That takes so much knowledge, skill, tools, like everything that really needs mastery to know gears.
Yeah.
So is there anything, obviously not starting with gears, but is there any of those systems that you would recommend if people are looking to upgrade their vehicles? You start from where? The ground up? Or you're starting from the front to back? Where are you looking to start when you're like, I want to do bigger things? What would you recommend as the first step?
Well, I guess that kind of comes back to like a bigger question, is that like, but why? Why do they want to do something bigger? Is it because they want to take their Jeep to the next, be able to do the harder obstacles, have more ground clearance? What is the ultimate goal? That's more of like a symptom in trying to figure out what you want to modify, unless you're legitimately just doing it for looks. But I think that's sort of what it comes down to, is asking yourself like, well, what's your current goal in achieving something? Is that like, you know, for Tara, it might be, well, I want to run that harder trail at Roush. I want to do more blacks, or I want to eventually be able to do a red. And you know that you need more articulation, or you need, you know, bigger tires, or whatever it is, or more ground clearance. So
yeah, it all sounds great.
Yeah. So I think it just really, like, it comes down to like, what is it you're trying to achieve? So once you've established that, and by the way, that's one of those things that changes over time. And that's why I went through all of those stages, was because my desire in terms of what I wanted to accomplish next continued to grow, right? That it was, I want to do this next harder trail, and this next harder trail, next harder trail. But, you know, it's hard for me to say specifically what someone should really start with. I would tell anybody, if you have a stock Jeep and you want to decide what you want to do next, just go wheel it first. Wheel it while it's stock, and see how it feels, see what you think you want to do. Chances are you're going to say you're going to want more ground clearance. But, you know, you can start simple, like I did, with doing something like 35s and a small lift. And at least those things are usually in the realm of not major surgery. So you could probably keep stock drive shafts. You can probably, you can absolutely get away with not regearing. So all of those things are like pretty easy. And obviously like the more cosmetic, but also like armor type things like bumpers and whatnot. But it's funny because you can think like, well, I'm going to get this bumper because I really like how it looks aesthetically, right? And then however many years down the road, you may realize, oh, I need this super like tight clearance bumper because my tires get into it, right? So like you may not think of that thing at the time that you're like buying this bumper that you think looks nice. But I think that's just how it evolves.
I didn't know tires could hit your bumper.
They absolutely can. Certainly when you get up into like the 40-inch tire range, when you're really articulated and you're turned, that you'll absolutely start to rub. Like obviously like my grill is trimmed, and that's why it's trimmed for my tire. But even people with stock grills, like you can start to get into it and you can rub your bumper too. So, you know, it's people don't think about that stuff.
You know what else I recently just learned that I think makes so much sense, that I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I thought bumpers were literally just to protect like your grill in case you hit rocks and stuff. Okay. Remember, I don't know if you saw my post on ground clearance. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize like depending on your bumper, you can get more ground clearance, which can, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So yeah,
like makes sense.
That's one of those things that like we always thought about in trying to design this. And obviously I'm not like at a good angle right now to show it, but you know, not only do you have ground clearance like up underneath the bumper, like in this location, but the idea of being able to come up to like a rock that's practically a vertical wall and to be able to climb up on it because you've got good approach angle. I mean, all of those things are going to make you be able to conquer obstacles that you wouldn't have been able to do before. So, you know, those are other things you can optimize beyond just like, you know, lift kit and tires.
A big reason why I went with an ultra clearance bumper and a 2-inch stretch is because I specifically love climbing ledges.
Yeah.
I love coming across something that is a vertical wall, and I have a 2-inch stretch on the front and an ultra 2 inches of my frame cut out of the front just so that I could get, and you'd be surprised out in Utah, people are like, oh, your Stinger's not going to like that. You're going to hit. And I'm just like, excuse me? Because it was something that when I thought of Rogue, I was like, I want to climb ledges. How is that going to get me there? And that's where I went ultra clearance with the bumper and a stretch in the front just to add to that to make sure that I didn't hit. But those are like,
I got scratched.
It won't
marks,
for
like,
long.
all underneath, but
We're
I
gonna
felt that's
chop
what
it
was
off.
for. I'm like, oh well, it's not the bumper's okay. Underneath, who cares? That's scratched up.
My bumpers seem more spray paint than anything. It's just it's done. It's fine. Nothing's gonna rust. It's good.
That's an important thing though that you're learning, Tara. Like you are going and you're still pushing the limits of the things that you currently have on your Jeep, and then you will that's what teaches you, and that's part of the reason why I struggle with. I see a lot of people. We all see them now that they go buy a stock Jeep. They've never wheeled before. They've never done any of this before. And it's immediately like 1 tons and 40s and this and that. And it's like you never learned the limitations that you had to begin with. So you just immediately went out there with this, what you probably think is like unstoppable rig. It's still stoppable. But you didn't have that opportunity to learn what you thought worked best for you and your wheeling style and whatever else. Instead, you probably picked what the internet told you to pick. So I think that's like a huge part of the learning process.
Well, I think you bond with it too in a weird way. I don't want to sound like a weirdo, but I swear, like when I wheeled with her stock, and I was proud of her growing each thing because I knew why I was putting that in or installing that, and I knew then what she was able to do. And it was like, I don't know, I got a weird bond, I feel like, with my Jeep. And I think you guys understand it.
You should have that bond with your Jeep.
Yeah, you should.
You're communicating with the machine to get you through something. You better have that bond. You better have that knowledge of your Jeep. So I was like,
I pat her on the
good girl. You did good today.
So I think it ultimately makes you a better driver, because you're learning those things.
Yeah. And especially when you learn with each mod too, because you're like, oh, okay, now I can do this instead of a whole overhaul. And then you're just like, okay, what am I doing with this? Where am I going with this?
Right.
So I likened it to one of my friends the other day was talking about, this person I know was talking about building a Jeep. And she was like, so what is the regulations for the Jeep you built? And I go, there's no regulations. I was like, it's kind of like a recipe that you follow blindly. There's no recipe for the perfect Jeep. You're always testing and tasting, and what do I add here and what do I add there? And then finally, once it all comes together, you're like, okay, next time I know I need to add a little bit more of this, and you're going back and revisiting that recipe. You're always learning and you're always figuring this kind of thing out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kate.
Well, I was just going to say, like, this isn't a regulation, but like one of the things, not everybody's building a dedicated rock crawler. Some people are limited by the fact that they also want it to be their daily driver. And that's the design constraint that you're working within. And that's fine. And you can, and I mean, plenty of people daily Jeeps on 40s too, but like you can build like the ultimate daily driver and weekend wheeler. That is possible. So, not everybody has something that becomes like a trailer queen.
Literally, Kate, that's what I was just going to ask you. Because this is like a big struggle for me. I absolutely love driving my Jeep to the campus. I love driving it around town. I even I would love to try an overlanding trip one day. You know what I mean? Like there's some really cool spots I've seen that just look absolutely amazing. But I love rock crawling. But at the same token, like my husband makes a point to me, like he says, like, it's not a good idea to daily drive 40s. I never driven in a Jeep in 40s. I have no idea what that feels like. Yeah. And I'm like, well, so like we're talking actually only going up to 37s, but then, I wonder how that'll limit me. So like, clearly I need a lot more research and I have to make a decision, but I feel like there was a hybrid that you could build that could just do it all.
So let me, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so if this is probably just the toughest trail that like I've been on, but Pritchett Canyon, I have seen stock Rubicons do Pritchett Canyon. Yep. It's not always about the build. It's about that connection you were talking about. It's about knowing what that build can do. It's not about that build. It's about how you're able to build the experience to wield a tool like that. And you'd be surprised the nice hybrid you can make that's super capable on road and off road.
Yeah.
Well, that's my goal.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean, to put it in perspective, I've been to Roush and I've run the exact same black and red trails with a CJ that was on 35s.
I love
So like
TJs.
it's not all about like the biggest tire size. So and that guy, like, he had the most amazing skills in terms of a driver because he could just bounce that thing right over the rocks. It was incredible.
And it's super more impressive too, because it's not like,
yeah.
oh, okay, you came in here with a yacht and you sailed across the ocean. It's like you came in here with a rowboat and sailed across
Right.
the ocean. It's so much
Exactly.
more impressive.
Yeah.
It looks fun
But
too.
I can say, like, in my learning experience, that like after having this thing on 35s and then 37s and
You
then
got it right.
40s, I got it right. It's when this Jeep was on 37s, it was I could daily it, I could drive it up to Roush, and we wheeled it all over the country. So do I love it on 40s? Absolutely. Am I super stoked that I built this ultimate rock crawler? Absolutely. But if I could tell somebody what I think is like the perfect thing to build, if they want that Jeep that can do it all, it's a Jeep on 37s. That's just my opinion, because you can re-gear it enough that you are not going to be hating life on the highway. I mean, you're still going to have to, maybe a little bit, your gas mileage is going to suck a little bit, but it's not this thing. Like, I mean, it doesn't want to move. it just doesn't. Like the stock engine is never really going to be up to the task, I don't think, of really long commutes, drives, whatever, on 40s. So I think that your idea of building a Jeep that's on 37s, you're going to be incredibly happy with that. Incredibly. And it's going to be comfortable, and it's going to absolutely, you can literally run almost any trail at Roush on 37s. So like, what more do you need? We've wheeled in South Dakota, we wheeled in Colorado, and there was no need for 40s and for the stuff that we did there. So like, sometimes I wish I could turn back the clock and leave this thing the way that it was. And it's funny too that I say this, because I have a JKU that I plan on putting on 40s. So even though I know in my head that I think something on 37s is better, I'm still going to pick 40s because I have reasons. Yeah.
Let's take a mild segue from how to start from the build and all of that stuff. She's got 3 Jeeps, people. She's got her JK, a JKU, and her recently new addition on that side, her new LJ.
I got it right.
So she's legitimately going to be like, she's already done a little bit on the JKU, not like it's not a crazy one, but you took that on blacks when we went out.
Well, it's still
like one
bypasses. Oh yeah, we did.
But still,
which black did you go on?
It was her shakedown for Psycho. She went on jotters, but
okay.
It was the
bumper.
part.
The bumper just didn't have the clearance. The bumper scratched a little bit, but other than that, it was great. Yeah. But she's starting 2 builds, guys. She's starting 2 builds, an LJ and a JK. So if you want to know anything about builds and you're just starting yours, I definitely recommend that you follow Kate, because she is going to be through this process, and she does an amazing job of helping, documenting, and informing everyone. All of that knowledge just doesn't go to use once her Jeep's done. Like she's got like a permanent thesaurus on there, a dictionary and reference Bible, all of that, whatever it is, all of that stuff on there for Jeeps. So definitely give Kate a follow if you're not already following her, because she gives funny content and knowledgeable content. She's great.
Her Jeep likes to talk.
Yeah.
Literally.
So
yeah,
let me ask,
so I think go ahead.
No. Keep going. We're going back to the building. So if you talk.
No. I was gonna say, like, so there's an interesting perspective when you mention the other builds, right? It's like, I've been through the full process, as you would say, with this one. And if you look at my JKU, I've owned that for almost 2 years now. And in general, it's mostly stock. I've not put a lift in on it. I've not put bigger tires on it. I had bigger tires for it. They're actually sitting right in front of me. But so now that I've been down the path of doing this thing, it was easier for me to say, like, okay, now that I know what I want my end goal to be, I am going to wait, and I'm not going to do any intermediate steps. I'm going to wait until I'm ready to just do everything at once. And so I think that that's the difference between someone who is perhaps like a seasoned Jeeper that's owned Jeeps for a long period of time, that's, you know, done multiple builds, is you'll see them more likely to go like directly to the end point because they already know what it is that they want. They don't need to do all of the other things in the middle.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it for the first time, I think those intermediate steps are really important.
Yeah. Well, you know, you
They're
have another
growing
Jeep.
pains,
You've already
yeah.
gone through that learning process of understanding the vehicle. And you know, like you said, you don't want to waste time and money in between taking those steps when you already have that knowledge and skill.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Well, hold on. We have a question real quick.
Go for it.
I'm just going to catch up before we start a new topic.
Yeah.
Ari said, I agree, you should grow with your build. JR says it's time for a new Bronco for Overland. Okay. Pay
JR,
for
go
it.
get it.
Go
get it.
for that. Anyway, and then we also have a question for you, Kate. Were you running the same suspension setup when you were in 37s? And
No.
JR is asking that.
No. So on 37s, I had a 3.5-inch metal cloak lift. And then when I went to 40s, I went to the 16-inch
That's what I
ORIs.
actually have. What did you get when you went to 40s? I'm sorry.
In my head.
The
The
ORIs.
16-inch ORIs.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure he heard that because I started blabbering.
Yeah.
And then Ashley Aaron said, hi, girls. I finally got on while you're on live.
Yay!
I actually got to wheel with Ashley recently. She's a
Oh,
sweetheart.
fun.
I love her.
Well, thank you for joining.
Yes. All right, go ahead, Heather. No, I interrupted your question.
Forgot what I was going to say.
I hate that.
Oh, okay. So your JK that you built, Psycho Cupcake, what is the wheelbase on that?
111 inches.
Will you mess with the wheelbase with your JKU?
Oh, that's so
Because
tough.
they're like, what is a wheelbase stock on a JKU?
About 115.
Oh, okay. All right. So
And an LJ is 104.
yeah, LJs are just perfect wheeling machines. They're just amazing.
No.
Or mudding, or just mall crawling, whatever you're going to build it for, whatever your purpose is.
Okay, so wheelbase is a tricky thing because there tends to be an optimal tire size for whatever your wheelbase is. So for something that's in the like 107 to 110 range, I think, or maybe it's a little bit more, 40s is a great number. So for stretched JKs, for LJs even, that's a 40s and that kind of wheelbase go together really well. With a JKU, you're already starting at 115. The problem with just leaving your wheelbase alone, even, and going to 40s is that you will have a worse breakover angle than you will with something with a shorter wheelbase.
Yeah. So
stretching it just makes that problem even worse. Now, it makes your approach angle and departure angles better, but you give up that sacrifice of like, are you going to high center now? And so generally what a lot of people will do to make up for that in terms of going for an even longer wheelbase is they go to then even bigger tires. So 42s, 43s, whatever. So it's a trade-off. With the JKU, I really just don't want to get into the amount of surgery that I did with this thing because I ultimately want to keep it comfortable, if that really makes sense. And I just don't want to like go cutting giant things into it. The corner armor is already painted. Everything's really nice. I want to keep it like a comfortable crawler, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. So I don't really have any intent to mess with the wheelbase. If I do anything, maybe the front a little bit, but I don't have any plans to do that. Because I guess I'll put this out there too. I really don't have plans to go to bigger than 40s. I would prefer to keep the Jeeps on the same tire size.
That's smart. That's smart.
I
and the LJ too?
Answer.
You're gonna keep the swap out spares for the LJ, or is that one?
The LJ
You don't
is
have
a
to
little bit
disclose
of
your plans if you don't.
the
want to talk about
LJ is
your
a little
plans
bit of a wild card.
Okay.
It's that one might be an exception.
You don't have to talk about any of the plans for that one.
Yes, she does.
No, she doesn't. Kate keeps it under wraps and then blows your mind. All right, that's what happens with Kate.
I think
it's
she's
quiet
close
and then
enough. We
boom.
could go to her house actually.
There's nothing to see other than
No, I meant like
it's right
make you
there.
tell us.
yeah.
Oh no, she won't tell you.
Oh
You're
no,
not
I
getting
mean,
that out of her.
I'll give away a few things. We've started creating some spreadsheets. So, we always analyze our options, starting to lay out spreadsheets. But yeah, I think the first and foremost thing that we're looking at is giving it a new engine. So it'll start with that.
Nice.
I like
excellent.
We want
I
all
like
the
that.
horsepowers.
Smart.
When you say spreadsheet, do you literally just list by step what you want to do? Or
Oh,
do you
girl.
draw something? You like,
Oh, girl.
Oh, have you not seen her posts of her CGing? She gets on
No.
there and uses like computer graphics to figure out her articulate. Like, I'm not kidding. She thinks of every inch of this build.
hold on, I don't even know how you wait. It's a computer. Hold on, you have a computer thing that does your build and it'll like move it for you?
Yeah. Yeah, we've done computer modeling of the build so that we can check clearances before we did anything.
For those of you guys watching that don't know, Kate, you're an engineer, right?
Yes, I'm an engineer.
And so is your husband, right?
He's not my husband, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And so are the dogs.
I'm sorry. I keep calling him that.
It's okay.
Sorry. But like, so
You're my own.
you have like this, like naturally by trade, even that understanding of putting something together and you should have seen how hard it was for me to figure out my wheelbase and my departure angles.
But did you spend 3 years trying to figure it out?
Yeah, but
yeah, she spent 3 years trying to figure it out before she tried stuff. It gets frustrating in the garage on a computer. It's like, whatever.
Hearing that you can I didn't even know you could do that. Like put a 3D thing on your computer. That's really cool.
There's programs for everything.
Yeah. So when we started this build, it was, I don't know how you want to describe it. It was Christmas time. I remember that. We got a bunch of just pieces of white paper and we wrote, it was literally like this or that options. I think I still have them like filed away somewhere because they're like, they're memorable now.
Yeah.
But it was stuff like pick 40s or 42s, pick Atlas or stock transfer case, pick, I don't even remember some axle options. They're like 14 bolt or rear 60.
Fuel cell or gas tank.
Yeah, fuel cell or keep the stock gas tank. 3-link or 4-link, stuff like that. So it was all these like this or that. And I just sat down with it and I just basically kind of had like an emotional decision about it. I was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And some of it I didn't justify it. I didn't say like, well, I'm absolutely picking this because of these reasons. Sometimes it was just because like that, I know that's what I want. Like the double triangulated 4-link was one of those ones. Like, did I have a really good reason why I wanted to do that? Not really. It's just that I wanted it. The length of the ORIs, that was another thing. Did I want 16s or 14s? Like, how big did I want to go? So we did those initial things. We started acquiring kind of like the big, I say we, but I mean me. I started like acquiring the big things, like buying the tires, buying the beadlocks, buying the axles, buying the suspension. And then over time, I mean, we literally have a binder, like a 3-ring binder full of papers where it was just like, this is the stuff we're trying to work out. And, this is this week's task of this problem that we're trying to solve. And some of it just became easier to transition it to like an Excel spreadsheet. And we started putting in there, like, we would look at each subsystem, so you'd be like suspension and you'd say, well, you need control arms, you need joints. And then if you need control arms, what's the task that's required in order to order control arms? Well, you have to know how long they are. And then you need to order joints. Okay, well, what kind of grease do the joints need? So it's just like every little detail of going down, like, oh, well, which bolts did we buy? And some things we were looking at like, okay, well, now that I've purchased the control arms or I know what size they are, how much do they weigh? And so we were like weight tracking everything. So like we have massive amounts of files on our computers of things that we were just, and so that when I say the Jeep's not done, it's because we still have a spreadsheet in the house that probably has 100 more tasks on it that still need to get completed. So in a lot of ways, like you say, I'm an engineer. This is what I do for a living, is doing this kind of stuff. And it's just like part of my nature. This is what we do all the time. And then when we start driving it and we're testing the pressures in the ORIs, then we would write down like, well, this is what pressure we ran and this is how the Jeep performed. And so then you start getting into making notes about the testing.
Yeah. Okay, that emoji that goes, I'm so impressed how you break all that down. Like, I mean, it's even like to one system and like looking at different things. I didn't look at any of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, some of the stuff I never saying that people need
to. I mean, this is like way overkill.
You know what you could create and sell? I kid you not, because I would buy it. Break like it down without any of your items in like subsystems and like ask questions. About this? Like, what did you say about the grease and the U joints? What kind of grease?
Yeah, like what kind of grease?
You know, like things like that, because I didn't know that was an option. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I just, like, or size of control arms. Like mine, you know, and when we bought it, I didn't know it mattered. I didn't know there were different sizes, but mine, they're metal cloaks, so you can readjust them. They move. You know what I mean? Now, that might be bad, actually. I don't know yet. They're working good.
Might have saved you money from having to rebuy.
They're working good, so you know. But you know, like it's just, I just think like a plan your build book. I mean, I'm just saying.
Bitch's Guide to Building. I like it.
Yeah. Build for dummies.
Building Jeeps for dummies.
No, I'm just teasing.
Not for dummies. No, it's I will say that because there's so many options, like how to put that all together. It's incredible to see it come to life in a Jeep that wheels hard, and it came to fruition. I know you have a million things, and you'll never be satisfied unless it's 100% perfect. But it's incredible where it is already.
Thank you.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like I said, it's just been a process. So.
Question for you then.
Yep.
Now that you, for any stage of your build, okay, whether it's beginning or even now, what is like, and I know you probably got a million, but what's your like favorite memory that like you left off-roading, right? Or your day or your weekend, whatever, and you did a mod or you did something and it performed amazing that you just had that much more fun on the trail? Like do you have like a moment like that or not really?
Like a success, like, hell yeah, I did it now.
Yeah, like one of those like aha, like, you know, like when you graduate boot camp, you leave there like, you know, like pumped up inside and proud. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's a few different things. I think that Heather can probably attest to, like the very first time we put it on the RTI ramp, and that's not even like really, you're not accomplishing anything by putting it on an RTI ramp. But that very first moment of doing that, I mean, she was there for it. And I think that it was probably emotional for both Seth and I, that we were just like,
you guys were both so happy. And then literally, I kid you not, the second she backs off of it, before she does it even the other side, this needs to be, we have to do this and fix this. And this was hitting here. And what about this? Let's go a little bit more on this side.
Yeah.
Instantly computing stuff. It was like amazing satisfaction. Holy crap, look at this. Like I tried to get up there and I'm like, I got a longer wheelbase. I'll be able to get up there with her. I could not touch her articulation on my longest. I was like, no, okay, you keep going. I'll meet you over there. I'll see you later. And like her and Seth were like, you see this? Do you see this? And then it was just like, okay, we need to adjust this, we need to adjust this. This has to go. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, right into it. Because it was incredible. But at the same time, like you said, you have that 100-mile long list that you still have things you need to, or you want to do.
Right. I love that answer.
But I do think like it was probably a few trips later. I don't remember if it was in November. It may have been in November. Yeah, I think that was when it was. We went back. And it was the trip when I think you've probably seen photos of it, of when we jumped it. And then there were some other things that we did. But I think it's just stuff like that we suddenly realized that we can climb something that we never thought that we could do before. Or there's one particular climb in the comp course that we've done a couple times now. Seth did it the first time, and then I did it back in, I guess, June. And you walk up to it and you're like, this is a vertical wall. Like we brought out an angle measure so that we could find out what the incline was, and it's like 88 degrees. Okay, so like it's freaking vertical, right? And then to have the Jeep walk up it, and it's like you marvel at the engineering in a way that you're just like, I can't believe it can do that. And in moments like those. but still, I built
Seeing it.
I picked the suspension numbers. I picked how it was supposed to be designed. But in the end, you don't really know how that translates, right? You don't know what that ends up being like. So to have made those choices, and then in the end, I can say like it works. Like that's crazy. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
No,
And look at
I
the
don't
smile.
know.
That's how she smiles. She was like, she's still so proud. And you should be. Like, you've accomplished something absolutely inspirational, amazing, functional, badass. Like, I just can't say enough about Kate and her build.
no,
And
thank you.
clearly
It's all that work that's gone into it. It's just
You went
amazing.
and got another one. No.
Another two. She's like, all right, I'm
Right.
not done here. Let's make more. Let's do more of this. How much? Let's build a rocket ship on the next one, and then incredible. Do you have any other questions for her, Tara?
Do we have any other questions from anybody as we wrap things up here? AutoCAD, Chris Webb said. I'm not sure that. Sorry, go ahead.
That's Chris Webb.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I know Chris Garage.
But I'm not sure what the AutoCAD was in reference to. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer Staley said, "Hi, everyone."
Hi.
Hey, Jen.
So I can speak to what Chris was referencing. So,
Okay.
if you are crazy enough to be like me and you are trying to design something like this, we used Fusion 360. That's the CAD program that we used. It's free. You can get a free version of it. So we used that, and then like all of the suspension design tools are 4-link and 3-link calculators, which are just Excel spreadsheets, but you can get those off of Pirate 4x4. Or if anybody is looking for a copy, you can absolutely just message me. And I have the spreadsheets that you can use. So, like, it's not like I invented these things, right? So I guess I'll say that, like, like, I wouldn't have been able to do these things if there weren't like years upon years upon years of people having done these things way before me. So, the stuff that's existed on Pirate, another really great resource, like if you watch YouTube, is this stuff that Jake Berkey puts out from Busted Knuckle. So like when you're truly thinking about doing a custom suspension, or you have questions about like wheelbase versus tire size, like there are incredible resources out there for you. So it's not like you're just flying blind and trying to figure it out. There's really good info, and there's some really good Facebook groups for it now too. So
Kate's really nice. People message me and I'm like, Google it. Kate's super nice and always willing to help people.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
can't
true.
even
The
remember
information's out there.
The information's out there.
Yeah.
People on Instagram messaging me and saying like, "Hey, do you have CAD files for these things?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." Like, but that's the beauty of social media, right? Is that you can connect with people and you can share those files and you can, help each other out.
Yeah,
that's a cool part.
I've learned a lot off of social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I met a lot of great people. That's how I met you guys.
Yeah, and that's invaluable too. Because it's experience, it's trial and error, what they've done. It's great advice because if they've lived through it. But
I didn't know anybody who had a Jeep. I didn't know anyone who off-roaded. You know what I mean? So it was like, that's how I made friends. But,
Tara makes all the friends. She's awesome. But that's what's incredible though too.
Crisis.
It's because all that information, all that experience, all of that is out there. And I think it's just amazing that you were able to, one, find everything you needed, because that's what a lot of people do. They get so overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, or they get so overwhelmed and they're like, well, I'm only watching YouTube videos from this one person. But you literally went out and searched, learned everything you could, and you help people too. And that's why we're just so happy to have you on the show too, because you're an incredible inspiration for everybody. Like putting that effort in to learn. That's not just passion, that's dedication. That's discipline. That's a lot. And whether or not you're an engineer or not, like, yes, you had a leap start on that, but it's incredible to watch what it's evolved into and what the new builds will evolve into.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And by the way, I don't mean to like oversell the engineering thing. Like I was an engineer. Again, remember, I was an engineer and I still didn't know what an axle shaft was. So like, it's not like I'm predisposed to knowing about mechanical things. It simply meant that I was really good at math and physics in school. So
it's encouraging.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if you would have said you were a welder or you were a mechanic, I'll be honest, a female in any of these trades and stuff, like to me is so encouraging. All the engineers I know, every single one are men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're just a
So if
living
I have
example that it
engineering
can be
questions,
done.
you know, I have to
Yeah.
go to them.
Yeah,
No matter your
absolutely.
background.
A female.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's literally just about immersing yourself, and you have to want to learn it. So if you want to learn those things, if you want to know how to do stuff, you will. It's just, you know,
Time.
Once you've taken your axle apart 1,000 times, you learn every single thing you need to know about it. You just will, you know.
Yeah.
So you'll understand. Well, oh, that's a 24 millimeter axle shaft bolt or whatever. You'll get there. It just takes doing it 1,000 times. So
yeah,
anybody
it's practice.
can. Yep.
It's just practice and familiarizing yourself with it and being out there with the Jeep, learning it. And the best part too is, I bet you the second that your axle shaft broke, you know exactly how to take it apart, put everything away, how to get your Jeep back on the trailer, because you built it. That's your baby. You know all the ins and outs. Like when you're wheeling, I bet you you hit something on the bottom. You're like, that's where this was. Yep, that was the drive shaft. Nope, that was the belly skid. Nope, we're good. Okay, we can go. Just from knowing your Jeep so much, from wheeling it and from building it, like I'm gonna say from scratch. Like you refined everything, like down to those. My favorite thing on her Jeep are those little rivets they're iodized.
Which one? The stuff in the back?
Yes. It's these tiny little details on her Jeep that are just like her custom exhaust and where it's crazy. All these fine details that she just made work. It's incredible. Guys, you got to check out Kate. Yeah. You got to check her out. Go check her out.
Well, on that note, I will say we need to go wheeling together. Definitely. I think that would be a lot of fun, very doable. I think we can get Ari go, we can get Ashley go, we can get Jennifer to go, and whoever. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I'd like to wheel with you one day. I would love to see your Jeep and you in action and just you guys smiling and, watching you having fun. And it's encouraging. And fun to hang out.
She brings her dogs. We haven't even talked about her dogs.
Yeah.
She has the cutest.
Okay, well, so that actually brings up a really good point, because I said that I wanted the JKU to be a comfortable crawler. It's because the dog's right in it. That's why.
And they're adorable. And one has a mohawk. Is it Murphy has the mohawk?
Yes, Murphy has the mohawk.
It's a little mohawk. It's so adorable. And also go to one of Kate's latest posts. She's doing the Jeep dog calendar through Psychocupcake. So submit your high def pictures for drawing for that. She's going to select the best ones for the calendar, and she puts out a Jeep dog calendar every year. Guys, go order one. They're adorable. The highlight of our day. We're like, ooh, whose dog's up this month? So go check it out. Submit your Jeep dog videos.
Now, pictures. If I put a dog costume on Carl for Halloween,
oh my God,
will that work?
Did you take him wheeling like that? If he's gone wheeling like that, I will put him on my calendar. It's a very weird calendar. It still sells.
We have a really funny joke I came up with today for a reel. I said, we should accidentally run over Carl and get it on video, and we can blame it on the powerful performing Jeep that can't stop. And the kid's like, what?
My God. Oh my God.
I have a love-hate relationship with him. He makes me so mad. You would not believe. I'll never get another cat. But the kids love him. But I'm not going to run him over. I'm just teasing, guys. I'm just saying.
I didn't think you were going to run your dog over. But bring him wheeling.
Cat.
Cat. I saw him walk by before, actually. Red and white.
Huh?
The red and white cat?
Yeah, he's orange.
Yeah. I saw him. Oh, yeah, red. Cats aren't red.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
If anybody has any last minute questions, get them in for Kate. If not, we're gonna sign off.
We had no questions. We had a comment. Anti-squat roller center. Lots and lots go into link location. Chris Webb said that.
Yep, that's absolutely true. So if you do start to get into suspension design, one of the most difficult things you are dealing with is that you are working within the constraints of the JK. You're working with the frame that it has and the body that it has. And so for a lot of people, I think that when you are designing your own suspension, it ultimately comes down to well, this is just where stuff fits. This is where I can fit this bracket. This is where I can fit this other bracket. And then my anti-squat and whatever else, ends up being a fallout of that. I probably have a picture of this a million years ago, so it's not something anybody's seen recently. But in order to accommodate my upper links being where they were, we cut giant holes in the floor and put channels in so that my links could be as high as they were so that I could get the anti-squat number I wanted. So again, we're talking about advanced stuff for people that are designing like custom Jeeps, custom suspension.
It's definitely custom. Nobody's cutting into their floor pan for that.
Yeah. So, but he brings up really good points. Those are the things that when you're designing custom suspension, okay, we'll dig into this a little bit since, we're just going to talk tonight.
Yeah.
So, you're optimizing those things, anti-squat and anti-dive and roll center and all of that to what you think you want it to be, or to what, the greater consensus of, the off-roading gurus think is right for you. So, for me, my anti-squat is adjustable because I have multiple bolt holes for where I put my links. So I think that right now.
What's an anti-squat?
Oh boy. All right. So we'll back it on. We're going to roll this back.
Well, hold on. I want to follow. I'm not following that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So anti-squat is, think about if you were to put your foot on the brake and hit the gas. So you're doing a brake stand, right? So you're stopped, but you're giving it gas. If your vehicle raises up when you do that, when you do a brake stand, then that is anti-squat because it is not squatting. It is raising instead. So if you were to put your, if you were to do the same thing, but it were to like suck down whenever you did that, then that's squatting, right? So it's like squat and anti-squat, but they usually just refer to it as anti-squat in general. So if you design your suspension and you have an anti-squat of 100%, that's considered to be neutral. So in that situation, that would be like you're doing a brake stand and it neither stands up or squats. That would be neutral. So if you dig into what other people on, Pirate 4x4 or Facebook or whatever, what they think is best for off-roading, a lot of people recommend that you have lower than 100% anti-squat. So that would mean that they prefer that your vehicle squat in that situation. I'm going to go ahead and put out an example, whether this is good or bad. If you look at people that have the GenRight suspension, you will often see that theirs tends to stand up when they do that. So they would have a greater than 100% anti-squat. They don't publish their numbers. I don't know what their number is, but I would venture to say that it's over 100% because Kevin Davis is a really good example because he's got like an LS swapped JKU on GenRight suspension. And so when he gives that thing gas, you'll see that it raises up. Those things can have benefits or consequences when you're in an off-roading type of situation. It can sometimes help you clear an obstacle, or it can help your tires kind of like suck up underneath of your vehicle, those types of things. So it's complicated. But so my point is that when you're designing your suspension for those things, sometimes you can be constrained by what you're willing to do in terms of cutting apart your Jeep. So oftentimes you'll hear people when they start going down this path of trying to do custom suspension on their Jeep, that they'll say, well, I should have built a buggy, because if you had built a buggy, you wouldn't have been constrained by the body
The
and the
JKU,
frame that you have here, right? You would have sort of like a limitless opportunity. And so when you try to do it on something like this, you're just kind of working within those bounds. So kind of a long answer there. But I will point out that even when you're purchasing like an off-the-shelf kit, like even you can consider the GenRight suspension an off-the-shelf kit, or you're purchasing, a rock crawler 3-link. That's another really good example. Or any of those other companies that offer something that isn't just a bolt-on kit, something that's a long arm, even like a 4-link long arm. All of those companies have designed their suspension to have particular characteristics. And those characteristics are anti-squat and roll center and all of that. So you may not know those things go into it whenever you're purchasing a kit from a company, but they have done that design work. The downside to that is that company is selling a one-size-fits-all kit.
Yeah.
Because another thing that comes into play with all of this stuff is how much your Jeep weighs and where your center of gravity is. So, you know, they can't design their suspension for every bumper combination, every roll cage combination, everything else, right? So everybody's Jeep is a little bit different. You have a little bit different CG, you have a little bit different overall weight. You know, I know JKUs can push like the 7,000 pound range, right? So, yeah. So my point is that like, you don't necessarily know that when you're buying the suspension that the company did all of that design work, but they did. But they had to do it as a one size fits all, like whatever fit the most, you know, combination of things. So that's why you'll still see people say like, well, this didn't work as well for me or whatever. And it's probably due to like little variations like that.
Like other mods you've put in and like the stretch on your Jeep, like the length and all of that. Like you're talking about stuff like that.
Yep.
That's all like so very interesting, Kate. Like seriously, because I never knew like the suspension, all that went in it. Because like when we bought mine, that was the first thing, you know, that we got. I just was lifting it. Yeah, I mean, like I didn't know like all these things like come into play with it. I think, thank you.
Yeah,
it can be
absolutely
extremely well.
It can be overwhelming, the things that you think you know, but there's so much that you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
That is even more overwhelming.
But yeah. And now that I'm growing in things, I'm learning to research things a little differently. Just that one was, you know, my husband told me what to buy. You know what I mean? I had to look at my budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My dad passed away, so I used like my inheritance really for it. You know what I mean? But even still with that, like we couldn't even afford like everything. Like we bought the control arms as we went, the rear, you know, and upper. But still, I didn't know all that went with it. I thought we were literally just lifting the Jeep and, you know,
no,
you
for most bolt-on kits like that you generally are. You're literally just looking to buy whatever is probably the best quality for the best bang for your buck. And I guess that was like a really important thing that we didn't even touch on in the beginning is when you talk about like your design constraints and what is it you want to do with it. Your budget is a huge part of it. And like that is absolutely like an okay design constraint to work within. And so like, you know, not everybody is just capable of, you know, going out and spending tens of thousands of dollars to just buy something, like buy all of these things, right? Like absolutely work within like what you have. And that's completely okay. So,
but it's neat to understand why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what you just taught me a little bit of is what all this is. There's a lot more to a suspension than just being lifted. And you know what I mean? They did all the figurings, but it's neat to know they did that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely they did. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Like you know.
And that like you may be disappointed that you can't do a huge build at once, but what you're gaining is that skill, that knowledge, that research, all of that, because instead of just vomiting money on your Jeep, you're learning in the interim.
Yeah.
And that's priceless.
We might not have put a lot of money into like other people. I mean, like everyone has different ranges, right? Mm-hmm. But we have done more to this Jeep this year than I ever thought we ever would. Like, you know what I mean? Because we do live on a budget. And I'm very proud of what we've done. You know, we did together. And
you should always be proud of your build.
I love it. I love
well, and you guys, you're also forgetting one of the most gigantic parts of it is that you guys do the work yourselves. And that is a huge, huge part of it. Because
I
the cost
that too.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn that in and out. You're saving on labor costs. You're going to become an expert like Kate in every one of those spots. You're not just going to say, okay, well now you're not going to sit there and be like, I'm just going to buy that arm. You're going to be like, okay, what am I buying this arm for? Is it a reasonable purchase for my budget? You're going to look at all your design constraints and then you're going to know what's best for you. And that's that knowledge and skill that's just priceless that you'll get.
Do you guys know Val?
Yeah, Val. Wait, which one? Which Val?
Mizervexi?
What? What did you just say?
I don't think so.
Val.
I'm going to assume I know you because I can't understand Tara. Hi,
Val. Valerie Mizervexi. Ugh. Valerie. She said it's Valerie. Is that Val from Gen Right? Maybe?
Val, what is your handle on Instagram? That's how I'm gonna
Alter
recognize you.
ego JK.
Yes. Okay, there we go. I know alter ego.
Thank you.
What's up, Val? That Val. I don't ask for last names. I want the Jeep's name.
I know. I'm like, huh? She's like, I always forgot your 7 is different from mine.
7.
Oh, she's on a different time zone.
Oh. So it's Chris.
What
Chris
would
told
we
me
do
today
without
that
you,
it's at
Kate?
4 for him.
Sorry.
Oh, she was an
Yes,
hour behind.
my
She was just
husband
walking
is
up.
Val, believe it or not. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, so my phone is about to die.
No, yeah,
you're fine.
we're at our hour, so we're gonna
After me.
peace off anyway.
Yeah.
Guys, I can't thank you enough, Kate. I know you're very busy. You've got 3 Jeeps to take care of. 2 dogs.
Well, it's not like
and
their
all
mouths
that.
to feed.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you taking not only time to chat with us, but to share all of this with us, to teach us and to teach our viewers. And guys, seriously, Kate is a great resource. I mean, don't hound her to death, but she's an amazing resource. So please go give her a follow her future builds, follow her current build. That's how I call everyone's current build, because we're never done with our builds. And thank you so much for taking this time out to come and talk to us and to help and educate us a little bit today.
Oh, well, thank you ladies so much. I was so glad to be here.
And Kate, I just have to say, you inspire me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love your page. I don't always get to catch all your posts, but keep doing what you're doing. You inspire a lot of women.
No, Kate is
So-
amazing, and she does not understand the reach you have. People may not always voice it, but you are an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Oh,
So
thank
keep
you.
it up, man.
Yeah, keep it
And
going.
we'll have to go wheeling. And I hope you all
Yes.
have a great week.
You
Cash
too.
Out Bars and Lockers now. I think their podcast started. Thank you, JeepHer, GP, for sponsoring this. And you guys all have a great night.
We'll catch you guys next time. Have a great night.